I am 87 years old, and I want to tell you about the year I stopped trusting my own feet. Nobody took my legs from me. I can still carry a full bucket of water from the pump to the porch without setting it down. What left me was quieter than strength. It was my balance, and it walked out of this house the way an old dog leaves, slow, without a sound, and I did not know it was gone until I called for it. So I sat on the edge of my bed one morning and counted the ways I had handed it over. There were nine small surrenders, and every one of them was mine. Come sit down where the light is good, and let me say the hard part plainly. I am not telling you that you are going to fall. I am not telling you your legs are finished, because for most of us they are not. Strength is stubborn. Strength stays late. The thing that leaves first is smaller than muscle and harder to see, and nobody writes it on a chart at the doctor's office. It leaves as a pause. It leaves as a hand that reaches for something solid before there is any reason to reach. I felt mine 4 years too late. My grandmother had a saying she used for anything slipping away from her: a language, a recipe, a footpath through the birches. She said a trail does not close because it grew steep. It closes because nobody walks it. And she said the body is the same, that it will quietly put away any ability you stop asking for, and it puts them away politely, so you never feel the loss on the day it happens. You feel it years later, at a curb, in the dark, with your hand already on the wall. She was not talking about weakness when she said it, and neither am I. She was talking about permission. Every ability you own is waiting on you to ask for it, and it will wait a long time, and then it will stop waiting. Balance is not a thing you have. It is a thing you are doing or you are not doing, and it keeps no record of what you managed at 60, which is why I test mine every morning on purpose before the coffee while nobody is watching. The first confession is the wall. Somewhere around 81, I began trailing my fingers along the hallway when I walked to the bathroom at night, not gripping, just touching, the way you touch a fence post going by. It felt like nothing. It felt like a sensible man in his own dark house. But my hand was doing work that belonged to my ankles, and the ankles, being polite, stopped doing it. And I did not notice the trade the night I made it. Nobody does. That is the whole trouble with it. A year of that hallway, and I could feel the difference out on the open kitchen floor, where there was no wall to touch. My grandfather said a man who leans on a fence long enough will lean when the fence is gone, so I took my hand off the wall and walked slower instead. Slower is not weaker. Slower lets your feet feel the floor and make their 1,000 small corrections, and those corrections are the whole thing. The native way is what I name the collection of teachings my grandparents left me, and you will find the link to it in the description below this video. There is no pressure in that at all, and nothing in the rest of our hour together depends on it. The link simply sits down there, quiet, in case your heart wants it later. I am glad you are sitting here with me either way. It is on the shelf the way a jar of preserves is on the shelf, put up in a good year by somebody who expected a hard one. Much of what is written in it I did not understand until I was old enough to need it, which is a poor way to learn anything, and the whole reason I bothered setting it down for somebody younger. Now let me give you the second confession, because that one cost me more than the wall ever did. The second confession is my head. My left ear went soft around 78, and after that, when somebody called my name from the garden, I would stop walking before I turned to look. Stop, then turn, then start again. It seemed like good manners. It seemed careful. But turning your head while your feet are moving is one of the oldest tests there is. The eyes swing, the inner ear argues with them, and the ankles settle the argument in the space of a half step. I quit handing my ankles that argument to settle, and here's what it cost. My world got narrow. I began looking only at what was directly in front of my boots. My grandmother said the deer that will not turn its head is already caught. So now, walking the length of my drive in the morning, I count the fence posts on the left and the crows on the right without slowing down. It feels foolish. It is not foolish. The third confession is the chair by the door. Somewhere in my early 80s, I began sitting down to put my socks on. The first morning I did it because my back hurt. The next morning I did it because it had worked, and after that I did it for 6 years without ever once deciding to. Do you know what standing on one leg to pull on a sock actually is? It is the only time most of us ever practice standing on one leg. I retired that without a ceremony. My grandfather, who shod horses into his 80s, said a man loses a skill the first morning he finds a comfortable way around it. The chair is still by the door. But now I stand at the kitchen counter with my fingertips resting near the edge and not on it. And I put my sock on like a man who intends to keep the ability. The fourth confession is my shoes. When my knees started complaining, I bought the thickest, softest soles in the store, the kind that feel like walking on fresh bread. They did help my knees. They also laid a pillow between my feet and every piece of news the ground was trying to send me. The floor talks. It tells you the tilt, the grit, the wet spot by the sink, 100 times a minute, and my soles stopped listening because there was nothing left to hear. My grandmother went barefoot in the house until she was 91, and she said the ground is teaching whether you are listening or not. I still wear the soft shoes outside. But in my own kitchen I go barefoot now, morning and evening, and in July I walk the grass out to the mailbox and let it be uneven under me. The fifth confession is the one I would most like to take back, because it is the one I could have caught earliest. I hesitated. Years before anything in me was weak, I began pausing at edges. The curb outside the pharmacy, the metal strip between the carpet and the kitchen tile, that last step down off my own porch, which I built with my own hands in 1968. Not a stumble, not a wobble. A pause, half a second long, in a place where a younger man simply steps. That pause is the first news anybody gets. Weakness mails its letter years later, but hesitation knocks early, and I answered it by rearranging my whole life so I would not have to hear it knock again. At my grandson's wedding, I paused at a curb, and a young man was at my elbow before I had finished the thought, and I was grateful. And somewhere inside me, I quietly agreed to be old. Now, when I catch that pause, I make myself step first and think about it second. The sixth confession is my hands. I made a rule I never said out loud: keep both hands free. So I stopped carrying the casserole to the table. I stopped bringing in more than one small sack from the truck. I made 2 trips, then 3, and I told my daughter it was my shoulder. But carrying a thing moves your center around, and moving your center and correcting for it is the exact skill I claimed I was protecting. My grandfather said a man who will not carry anything ends up being carried. Now I bring the firewood in with both arms full, on purpose, 3 times a week, over ground that is not level. I do it in daylight, and when I am fresh, never when I am tired. Those 2 conditions are how a man tells practice from foolishness. The 7th confession is the pavement. Without ever announcing it, I quit the field. I quit the gravel by the shed and the slope down to the creek, and held myself to the smooth places, the drive, the sidewalk, the flat aisles of the grocery store. Flat ground is a kindness that quietly takes something from you. Ankles that only ever meet a level floor forget how to meet anything else. And then the one uneven thing nobody can avoid, a root, a rolled rug, a patch of ice, arrives at a body that has had no practice in years. My grandmother said smooth water raises poor swimmers, so I walk the gravel now, slowly, in good light. But I walk it, and my ankles have started arguing back. The 8th confession is the light. I began leaving a lamp burning all night in the hall, and then another in the kitchen, until this house at 3 in the morning was lit up like a church. It felt like caution. What it really was my eyes taking over a job that belongs to 3 things working together: the eyes, the inner ear, and the feeling in the soles of the feet. Take the light away from a man whose eyes have been doing all the work, and there is nothing underneath to catch him. So this is the test I do first, every single morning before the coffee. I stand at the counter with my feet together and my fingertips a ½ inch from the edge, and I shut my eyes and count slowly to 10. Some mornings it is nothing at all. Some mornings I sway like a young pine, and that is the morning telling me exactly what it came to tell me. I do not quit on those mornings. I open my eyes, let the floor come back, and try it once more before the coffee, because the swaying is not the verdict, it is the lesson. The ninth confession is the one I am least proud of, and I saved it for last on purpose. I let people hold my arm. It started with my daughter on the church steps, her hand up under my elbow, and it was love. And I want to be careful how I say this next part. A hand holding your arm is doing something nobody can see. It is taking away the small correction your own body was about to make. You cannot sway when you are being held. And a man who has not been allowed to sway in 2 years has forgotten how to catch himself. So here is what I refuse to hold on to now. And I want to be exact, because refusing the wrong things is how old men end up on the floor. I take the arm on ice. I take the arm on stairs I do not know, and in a dark parking lot, and on any day my legs feel borrowed. What I refuse is the arm on flat, dry ground in good light. I refuse the wall in my own hallway. Last spring, my daughter reached for my elbow crossing the church lot, and I put my hand over hers and set it back down, and I said, "Walk beside me instead, close enough to catch me and far enough to let me wobble." She cried a little in the truck. Then she started walking that way every Sunday, and I have not needed catching yet. And most of all, I refuse the story that this is simply my age, because that story never asks anything of me in the morning. Naming those 9 was not the same as hating myself for them. I want to be clear about that, because I know how a list like this can sit in a person's chest at 2 in the morning. Not one of the 9 was laziness. Every single one of them was a kindness I did for myself on a hard day. The hand on the wall was a tired man being careful. The chair by the door was a sore back. The soft shoes were my knees. The lamp in the hall was a man not wanting to trouble anybody in the night. Each one was reasonable on the day I chose it. They only turned into something else because I never went back and unchose them, and a kindness you never revisit will slowly harden into offense. Here is the difference it took me 87 years to learn. A habit is something I did on a Tuesday. It is not something I am. I can notice a habit. I can watch my hand drift toward that wall and bring it back down to my side, and that is a thing a man can do at any age. But if I let the list become a description of me, unsteady, declining, finished, then there is nothing left to notice and nothing left to bring back, because nobody can practice their way out of a name. So I do not call myself an unsteady man. I call myself a man who is putting his hand back down at his side. That is smaller and truer, and it is the only kind of sentence I can do something with tomorrow morning. So let me gather this up for you now, the way my grandmother gathered the ends of her shawl before she stepped out into the wind. 9. The wall I touched in the night, the head I would not turn while walking, the chair I sat in to put on my socks, the shoes so soft my feet went deaf, the half-second of hesitation waiting at every edge, the hands I kept empty, the uneven ground I quietly quit, the lamps I left burning against the dark, and the arm I let somebody hold on flat, dry ground. Now turn those toward your own hallway, because that is the only place they matter. Is there a wall you touch? Do you stop walking before you turn your head? When did you last stand on one leg on purpose? How long since your bare feet met the floor? And the honest one, the one I would ask across the table from you. Has anything ordinary in your day gotten a half-second longer than it used to be? Not harder, longer. Getting out of a chair, stepping into the tub, turning around in a doorway to answer somebody. Nobody hands you a warning about that, and no chart at any office measures it, because that half-second is not weakness arriving. That is balance leaving quietly, and it leaves years ahead of the legs. I know somebody out there is listening with a question they would rather not say out loud. Is it too late for me? I have carried that same question up and down this hallway for a long while, so let me answer the only honest way I know how. I cannot promise you steadiness. I cannot promise you the body you had at 60, or that one word of this will hold you up on a bad day. What I can tell you is this. Age has not taken your ability to notice one habit. and it has not taken your ability to make one ordinary choice about it in the morning, noticing and choosing. Those two stay. Now I would like to hear from you. Of those 9, which number went quiet in you? Which number did you already know about yourself before I ever said it out loud? Tell me down in the comments. I read every one of them, slowly, in the morning with my coffee, and they are the best part of my day. And if this hour sat well with you, come back and sit with me again tomorrow. I will keep a chair by the fire for you. Go gently on the stairs tonight.